Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order takes place 5 years after Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, and before Solo, Star Wars Rebels, Rogue One and New Hope. 5 years have passed since the execution of Order 66 that began a great Jedi purge. The Empire is at its finest, ruling with fear and violence and having no real opposition. Cal Kestis is a scrapper, salvaging old ships on planet Bracca. He works along with his friend Prof. They are ordered to remove an error that jammed clamps on the line 10A. On their way they find an old Jedi fighter with R2 unit. But all of a sudden the platform mounting breaks and two friends are falling down. Cal is lucky enough to hang on a wire, but Prof is slipping down the edge and falls. Cal uses the Force to save his friend's life. Prof knows that it was the Force that saved him and figures out that Cal is a former Jedi. He promises to keep a secret, but Cal knows he must disappear for his own safety. He falls asleep for a while on a transport ship and has a vision of his former master Jara Tapal, who tells him to trust only in the Force. When he wakes up, stormtroopers are entering the room and checking everyone's identity. All passengers are dragged outside, and a mysterious second sister is appearing, ordering the traitor to reveal himself. Prof steps up trying to say something, but he is killed by the second sister. Cal loses his temper and attacks with a lightsaber, but he is overpowered by the second and the ninth sister and gets dropped from the cliff. That way he lands on the train full of stormtroopers. Although at one point he is cornered, he receives help from an unknown woman that offers him escape from the ship. But when Cal is trying to climb up, things go wrong and he ends up falling from the platform. Even though he managed to avoid getting killed by the fall, as soon as he gets up, Second Sister is already there and the lightsaber duel begins. Second Sister is impressed by Cal's skills, but the duel is interrupted by Sire Yunda, who takes Cal on her ship and takes him to safety. Later, Sire and her friend Grease Dritus explain to Cal that the Second Sister is an Empire Inquisitor that uses Force to hunt the remaining Jedis. Turns out that Sire is a former Jedi Master, and when they tracked the Empire communications and heard that the Inquisitors were going to Bracca, they decided to help. She also reveals that she knew his master Jara Tapal and tells about the plans of recreating Jedi Order. Cal confesses that his Force control is damaged, and a few moments later, they arrive on Bogano planet. It can't be found on any maps, and is a perfect place for a shelter and rebuilding Jedi Order. On his way to the vault, Cal meets a little droid, BD-1, that is very friendly and it helps him to find a way. While inside the vault, BD-1 shows Cal a message from Master Eno Cordova. He explained that the sacred vault was built by a vanished civilization called the Zeffo. The temple is hiding a Jedi holocron containing a list of locations of young Force sensitive throughout the galaxy. The holocron can be passed only to a trusted Jedi, so before Cal can get it, he must complete a test and follow Eno's path to prove he is the worthy one. For that, he must travel to Zeffo planet. Eno also tells Cal that Zeffo had interest in Dathomir, a place connected to the dark side. Back in the ship, Siri is happy that Cal passed the test and he tells her about Cordova and the holocron. Turns out, she knew Eno Cordova. She also shows Cal a holocron with a message from Obi-Wan Kenobi. On Zeffo, Cal finds a secret tomb and he encounters a tomb guardian. Cal also finds a temple dedicated to Sej Eli Ram. Inside, Eno shows him that Zeffo had fascination about Kashyyyk culture and tells him to go there and learn about Zeffo from Chieftain Traful. On his way to the ship, Cal encounters Purge Troopers, a special unit trained only to hunt Jedis, and when he reaches the landing zone, he is also ambushed by ATST. Grease has second thoughts about going to Kashyyyk as the planet is filled with Imperial army. Meanwhile, on the way, Siri tells her story. When the Purge of the Jedi started, she and her Padawan took a few younglings and went into hiding. Shortly after, she was captured by Stormtrooper patrol and tortured. They wanted to know about Cordova. She says that she didn't break and escape when the prison riot broke. She also tells Cal that she lost her Padawan and how the whole experience made her a different person. So she left the Jedi way. On Kashyyyk, they are almost shot down by a Wookiee's ambush on Imperial convoy. Cal decides they need to help the Wookiees in the battle, so he looks at his "What would Anakin do" bracelet and decides to jump right off the ship and hijacks AT-AT, which is pretty impressive. During the battle, Sav Gerrera steps in to say hi. Cal saves the day clearing the Empire infantry and destroying the transport ship, but unlucky, it crashes on his AT-AT and destroys it. Sav Gerrera offers help, but in return he wants Cal's support in freeing his men enslaved by the Empire. Cal gets a warning from Cere about Saul, but he decides to trust him, hoping he will lead him to Chieftain Traful. Gerrera and his men create a distraction and Cal takes advantage of it to free the Wookiees. So Gerrera is impressed by Cal's skills, he offers him a job, but a young Jedi has other priorities right now. A Wookiee named Choisek offers his help in fighting Chieftain Traful. Cal returns to Zeffo to find more clues regarding to Holocron Vault. And at this point, Second Sister shows again. She already knows who Cal exactly is, and she also knows about Cordova and the secret holocron. Cal grabs a lightsaber and the duel starts again. Second Sister is very fast and powerful, so Cal is getting pushed back, and even though he tries his best, the opponent is overwhelming him with the ability of the Force. Cal is getting thrown on the ground, but BD-1 saves him by closing the passage between them. Second Sister reveals that she is Cere, former Padawan, and how she was betrayed by her master, who could not handle the pressure of torture. Then she removes the mask and shows her true identity. Cal doesn't believe this, but Trilla tells him that in that decisive moment, Cere will choose herself over him, just like she did to her, and she also accuses Cere of using the dark side. Cal is confused, and now he knows what his master meant when he said trust only in the Force. Running through caves, he finds a tomb of Mictrul and learns that he needs to find Zeffo Astrium to unlock the vault. His communication with the ship has been corrupted by Trilla, and when he tries to get back on the ship, he is attacked by a bounty hunter and gets captured. Cal wakes up with no weapon or BD-1 around, but he manages to get out of his cell and find the droid. Unfortunately, his escape path ends in Sork Tromo's arena, where the crowds are ready for some exciting bloodbath. Sork Tromo gives him the lightsaber and puts young Jedi into a fight with some monsters and a bounty hunter that capture him. Cal stays alive long enough for Cere and Grease to show up, and once again they help him to get the hell out of the trouble. Cal asks Cere about Trilla, and things get a little tense, but this drama is interrupted by a message from Kashyyyk saying that Tarful wants to meet with Cal. On Kashyyyk, Tarful tells Cal that he should search on the top of the origin tree, and that's exactly where young Jedi goes. While he reaches the top, Ninth Sister shows up and tries to kill Cal, but instead, she just gives him a free, cool ride in a Kashyyyk National Aquapark, which ends up with a nice splash and some sightseeing. But what goes around comes around. Eventually, Ninth Sister finds him again, and this time she brings her A-game and some decent trash talk.
You're not worth my time, so let's make this quick!
Ninth Sister is all about the dirty moves, but Cal is patient and focused. And when she got a bit tired and irritated, she decides to use her strength. But Cal uses it against her, cuts off her hand, then pushes her off the cliff, ending the duel. On the road to Dathomir, Cere confesses that it's true she gave up on Trilla, and explains that she could not resist the dark force the Empire used against her. On deserted Dathomir, Cal finds tracks of Zeffo, but his presence has been noticed by Ninth Sister. Ninth Sisters are strong in force, but they go different paths than Jedi or Siths. She clearly hates Jedis and tries to kill Cal with her soldiers, Night Brothers, demons she possesses, and local freaks of nature. There's also this mystery wanderer who warns Cal about mystic forces that hide in the ancient ruins of Dathomir. Inside the temple, Cal has a flashback of an execution of Order 66 moment. He was still a young Padawan back then. Jaro Tapal was proud of his apprentice, and he was just about to tell him the good news that they leave Braca to move to Migeto when he felt disturbance of the Force, and a stormtrooper received an Order 66. Jaro Tapal fights bravely, protecting his Padawan, but they are cornered and overwhelmed. Even a great Jedi Master can't handle such a heavy fire, but he sacrifices himself to save Cal. Young Padawan uses an angry strike of the Force when he sees his master being shot, and they manage to escape in the capsule. But Jaro Tapal is badly wounded and dies on his apprentice's hands. After the flashback, Cal has a vision of a duel with Jaro Tapal, who blames him for his death. It's a vision similar to one Luke Skywalker will have on Dagobah when a young Jedi must face his biggest fear. Carried by emotions, Cal breaks his lightsaber. Outside the temple, Wanderer reveals his true identity. It's Taron Malicos. He's a former Jedi who survived the Purge and found shelter on Dathomir. Under the influence of the dark force of this planet, he lost his Jedi path and began to use Force to gain control over the Night Brothers. Malicos tries to persuade Cal to join him and learn from him, but Night Sister Merrin appears and compromises him. Cal just runs away. Aboard Mantis' ship, Cere admits that when she learned Trilla became an Inquisitor, she briefly fell to the dark side, and that's why she cut herself off from the Force. On Ilum, Cal searches for the crystals to rebuild his lightsaber. BD-1 shows him the last message from Endo Cardova, revealing the little droid's part of the plan. Realizing the sacrifice that BD-1 made for Cal, he believes in himself again, and that helps him to rebuild his lightsaber. Cal returns to Dathomir, where he overwhelms his guilt for Jaro's death by facing his fear once again, but this time his fear and guilt is defeated by wisdom. That impresses the Night Sister, and Cal convinces her that Jedi are not the enemies and that she was used by Malicos, but he doesn't mean no harm to her and just wants to save innocents from being slaughtered, and with that beautiful speech he earns her trust just like that. But there's still Taron Malicos on his way. Malicos is obsessed with the power, and he wants to convince Cal to be his apprentice. Classic Star Wars. He thinks the Jedi Order was meant to be doomed because of its arrogance, and he wants to build a new cult. Cal refuses, and that angers Malicos enough to reach for his sabers. He is a very strong opponent, and Cal can't keep up, but in the decisive moment, Night Sister saves his life and helps him to defeat Taron Malicos. The two became allies, and Merrill helps Cal to find a path leading to Astrium, and she agrees to join him. Cere and Giz are far away from throwing a welcoming party, but they agree that Merrill can join them. She kinda adds a fresh perspective to the whole quest. She thinks that restoring Jedi Order will bring great danger to the children strong in the Force, as the Empire will hunt them and do anything to find them. Back in Bogano, Cal is searching for the holocron, but he has visions of little Padawans being attacked by the Empire Inquisitors. Cal knows the blame would be too much to handle if that vision ever became true. He reaches the holocron, but Trilla is already there. During the fight, she tricks Cal, giving him a brief advantage. This short distraction has huge consequences. Trilla steals the holocron, and Cal sees a vision through her lightsaber. The vision of how Trilla became the second sister.
No.
Cere has a clue where the second sister might have taken the holocron, so they go after her to the fortress of Inquisitors. Merrill uses her magic to make the ship invisible and pass a blockade. Cal and Cere use capsules to land without being noticed. At this point, Cere kinda proves that being a Jedi is kinda like riding a bike, and when Cal reaches the Citadel, he has another rendezvous with Trilla. Since it's their third date, they go straight down to business.
Trilla, I saw what you've been through. You've experienced great suffering. It's not too late to let it go.
Let go. I'm stronger now because of the pain. I knew you'd come back for this. No, thank you.
Cal retrieves the holocron and Cere is trying to explain herself to Trilla, but Darth Vader shows up and chokes Trilla to the death. Cere strikes with her full anger, but Vader just pushes her down with his force. Then he tries to convince Cal to join the dark side, but the young Jedi resists. Of course, he has no chance against Vader, so he tries to escape, but the Sith Lord is after him and his efforts are useless. He is actually saved by Cere, who shows great anger at this moment, and Vader feels that the dark side is overtaking her.
I won't let you take those children.
No! No!
Yes. Strong with the dark side.
Please! Still have a choice?
Carl interrupts her growing anger, and Meryl creates a distraction that helps them escape. Back on the ship, Cal decides to destroy the holocron and let the Force guide the way of its children. And that's how this game ends.